Okay, all seems good on the audio front. Welcome to today's webinar. We'll be looking at the Small Business Risk Review for Q4 2018. It's our first webinar that we've done for the new year, Feb already. Happy New Year. I hope you all managed a break. I'm not sure about you, but I feel like Australia has certainly got off to a flying start. Generally, I find that December and more so January are quite slow, but we're extremely busy here. Plenty of inquiries, plenty happening. It seems like we've started the year off a lot faster than previous years as well, which is great to see. Hopefully everyone is seeing that around the various industries, businesses, and states around the country. My name's Patrick. I'm the new CEO at CreditorWatch. However, I have been with CreditorWatch since day one. Please feel free to connect with me and the team on LinkedIn or reach out if you do have any questions. And of course, ask questions along the way. We have plenty of people standing by to assist with any questions that you might have. If we don't get back to you though, we will get back to you within the next 24 hours. So don't fret if we can't get back to you during the webinar. We won't leave you hanging for too long, I promise. Before we get started, as I said, Q&A, ask away. Slides and webinar recording will be sent to you within 24 hours. And the session will be about 30 minutes. I should say that was my fault. Dropped the minutes off there. So a little bit about CreditorWatch. The majority of you, I just had a flick through, are customers already. However, just to reiterate, Australia's leading and most innovative commercial credit reporting bureau with over 50,000 customers across Australia, and that's growing. We're probably 55 to be honest. Main products, the core products that we offer: credit reporting, monitoring and alerts on your customers or suppliers. We've got plenty of people monitoring their suppliers now, and debt collection tools. DebtorLogic Plus is our trade program, allowing you to analyze your age trial balance. Bankruptcy Plus allows you to see the individuals behind a company and whether they have had any bankruptcies in the past or are currently bankrupt. And we've also got an adverse cross-directorship feature, which we've recently released, which will flag any additional companies that the director that you're dealing with may be a director of, and let you know if their empire is crumbling, so to speak. Apply Easy is our online credit application, and of course PPSR Logic, our newest product within the CreditorWatch suite, dedicated solution for all things PPS related. Obviously, we've just gone past that 30 Jan deadline for the 7-year renewals of PPS registrations. From here on in, you should be doing, renewals on all, if not most of your existing registrations if you chose the 7-year option. And of course, for your general registrations, that's where PPSR Logic will sort you out. Please do get in touch. Essentially what we did is we built the best product out there off the back of feedback from people using all the other products that already exist in the market. PPSR Paul can certainly help you there. He's our in-house PPSR expert specialist. So just get in touch with us or your account manager for more information there. A little bit about the Small Business Risk Review itself. We've been going for, I'd say, at least a year and a half, if not 2 years now. Our Small Business Risk Review is a quarterly analysis of aggregated data and trade payment information. So we're pulling a whole bunch of data from various sources, including government sources like ASIC, APSA, which controls bankruptcy information, courts around Australia. We're looking at insolvencies as well. And then the next steps are looking at that data that is provided to us by our customers in the form of debt collection notices, payment defaults, and trade payment information. There's a big push for CreditorWatch at the moment to focus on gathering more data. As you would have seen if you're a customer towards the end of last year, with payment defaults, our next big push is certainly going to be around trade payment information, and you'll see some big changes, if you haven't already, to our payment predictor, allowing you to see how a debtor is paying the market, paying their suppliers, and then how that particular industry that they operate in pays their bills as well. So it's good to see if they are paying, faster, in line with, or slower than their industry. It's a really good tool that we've added into our repertoire there. So a quick poll question to get us started. How would you rate the trading conditions of the last quarter? So looking at Q4 last year, how would you rate those trading conditions? Positive, neutral, or negative? I found, the media sort of played up a much more negative angle, really off the back of, the downturn in the property market. But from a commercial or a business point of view, certainly didn't see that it was overly negative. I felt like a lot of people were treading water, so to speak, just waiting to see what was going to happen towards the end of the year, setting themselves up for, what is typically a quiet period from a payments point of view in December, Jan, with lots of people being away on holidays, other than retail, hospitality. Most industries see a bit of a downturn, but for us, we kind of saw it, being more, neutral to positive. People were quite excited about the new year coming and getting through, obviously, the current situation, with the federal government. Everything's a bit on hold, and they seem to just be preparing for a very, very long pre-election campaign. So that's probably what I expected, which is good to hear from our customers. 20% neutral, not great for those who have selected that, obviously, but it's nice to know that 80% of people are neutral or positive, so 20% negative there. So thank you for that. Always good to know how everyone else is feeling, not just how we're sensing it by talking to people and our customers at CreditorWatch. So let's jump straight into some of the numbers that we've got in our recently released small business risk review, which is available on our blog and will be emailed out as well. So court actions in Queensland, we've seen a slight increase, a very, very slight increase in the number of court actions, but quite a sizable jump in dollar amounts. So it's most likely that there were some big cases up there in Queensland. New South Wales certainly not faring very well after a run of sort of 4 consecutive quarters where there was a reduction in court actions and the value of those court actions. We've actually seen quite a steep climb. 10% is quite big for that time of year, and a 43% in the value of those. So keeping in mind that court actions typically followed by winding up and administration. So if you are experiencing, if you are receiving email alerts on customers that you're trading with of, decent sized court actions, we generally say, 10K, 20K and above, please be aware that, you could start to see some wind up notifications and administrations happening very soon after. South Australia's fared even worse than New South Wales, a 32% increase in court actions down there, and a large 60% increase in the value of those court actions. So a huge turnaround that we're seeing down in South Australia. Victoria, I believe, is the worst of the states in terms of the stats that we're looking at from a court action point of view. Massive jump, almost 70% increase in court actions happening Q4 versus Q4 2017, and 80% increase in the value of those court actions as well. So would be really interested to see if those companies who are exposed to Victorian businesses, if they're experiencing the same thing, if that's what you're sort of seeing in the market. I haven't got a poll question set up, unfortunately, so I can't see that, but you can use that Q&A section. I'd be really keen, if you are exposed to the Victorian market and economy, have you started to see a bit of a downturn, potentially that 20% that indicated, a sort of negative feeling for Q4? Most of those potentially could be coming from Victoria. WA, it seems like, not that long ago that WA were really, lurching from crisis to crisis with, particularly with their exposure to the mining downturn. But now we're looking at 3 quarters in a row where they've seen significant drops. This time not as big as the last, but 13% drop in the number of court actions and a reduction in the value of those court actions as well. So nice to see WA doing a lot better than they did for quite some time, not that long ago. The next one we're going to look at is cancelled unincorporated entities. So when I talk about unincorporated entities, I'm talking about sole traders, trusts, partnerships. Generally, they make up the majority of our SMEs that are out there, much, much smaller, or probably micro businesses, single operators, home operators, that sort of thing. They do make up, probably 90% of our economy in terms of the number of businesses out there. And it's very rare for a supplier not to have exposure to a large number of SMEs as well. They may not make up a huge part of your overall revenue, but from a volume point of view, they typically make up a large chunk. So we always urge to be, hyper aware of, what is happening to SMEs. They tend to be a bit of a bellwether for how the economy is going. And what we have seen is Q4 2018 versus Q4 2017, a 31% increase in cancelled unincorporated entities. Now it has notably gone up and down over the last 4 quarters. However, regardless of the trend itself, the fact that we did have such an increase in the number of cancelled unincorporated entities is certainly something to take note of and be aware of. Of course, CreditorWatch does provide credit reports on those entity types. There is a lot less information about unincorporated entities out there because you don't necessarily, or they don't have the same sort of reporting requirements as a proprietary limited company with, identifying directors, shareholders, etc. However, we certainly do provide a significant amount of data on them, including whether there is any adverse events against them. Payment predictors are available when we have enough data, and also credit scores as well. And of course, you can monitor those entities for ongoing changes. Average payment default. So we did a big push on getting as many defaults as possible into our bureau last year, and we set up quite a bit of automation within our CreditorWatch account to allow our customers to register defaults a lot easier than previously available, and also a lot easier than some of our competitors out there as well. And just to reiterate, why is defaulting so important? So obviously it's a great way to prompt a slow or non-paying customer to pay their outstanding debts. The threat alone is often enough to get a customer to make contact with you and ultimately either settle their bill or set up a payment plan, so to speak. However, then registering that default has fantastic, or gives you fantastic leverage over that particular debtor. By registering the default, it affects their credit rating and also remains on their credit file for up to 5 years. But on top of that, it will also send an email alert to every one of their other suppliers that are monitoring that particular entity. So it deters those other suppliers from providing ongoing credit. They generally end up going to another supplier or an existing supplier and getting knocked back for credit, saying, no, there's a default on your file now with CreditorWatch. You need to pay cash on delivery or cash up front. And more often than not, you see them come back and ultimately settle your initial default that you registered, unless, of course, they've completely run out of cash and they're on their journey to administration. So what we're seeing here for the value, we look at the value just because we're growing so quickly. Looking at the number is, it's not a true reflection. It's always going up, the number of defaults being registered, but the values is what we find is always interesting as well. So we have seen a 30% increase versus the previous quarter, which is a sizable one, the largest one that we've had in over a year as well. So we will get some more stats as we start to see more of those defaults either get settled from that big push that we had through Q4. I will look to provide some more stats for you in the next small business risk review in next quarter. Insolvency is probably the big positive to take from this particular small business risk review. We've seen a 11% decrease, a reduction in comparison to the third quarter in 2018, and an 18% reduction compared to Q4 2017, which is really nice to see. ASIC is, off the back of GFC, which is going back over 10 years ago now, they remain fairly consistent in the way that they were administering either companies that weren't paying their annual bills to ASIC, and we saw plenty of we see plenty of strike-off actions occur. However, what we also have seen is a fairly constant amount of companies being either wound up or put into administration as well. People seem to be a lot more, I guess, either educated or aware of, the insolvency and administration process. And there's no huge troughs or valleys since that time, which is good to see. But off the back of the large number of court actions that we've seen in Q4, it will be interesting to review this, in the coming sort of 6 months, just to get a better understanding of whether they are going to turn into insolvencies or not. Now, bankruptcies. What are we seeing here? Sorry, the text is a little bit small, but it is you are able to zoom into it once we send it to you. So no huge changes. If we're looking nationwide, Q4 17 versus 18, we're seeing a 1% reduction year on year. If we look at the various states as well, we're seeing reductions across the board except for WA, where there's an increase. So they've sort of bucked the trend there of the court actions where they've seen reductions, and they've got an increase in the number of bankruptcies that have occurred. So no huge things to take out of the bankruptcies, I would suggest. If you're looking at the total number itself rather than looking at the percentages, is always a sort of better way to do it. If you look at New South Wales, well, it gets 3%. There's only 30, a difference of about 30 in there. So that's probably a better way to do it than looking, sincerely at the percentages, so to speak. So what I want to do before I go through the what's next is just jump into CreditorWatch itself. Obviously, always pushing the blog that's available. Within the blog as well, you'll be able to see the latest small business risk review. So all the data that I've just been through is obviously replicated or pulled from here. We've changed up the design. It's a little bit cleaner, a little bit newer. The old one had run its path in my opinion. So this is a really nice way that we've laid everything out for you from a national and a state-based point of view. So plenty of data in there. That's available on the blog now if you're keen to have a look. And obviously, all of our new articles, feature updates, etc., exist within the blog. So I do encourage you to jump in there. There we go, found my cursor. So we have had quite a number of features that are either just being released or have been released. So please keep up to date either by following us on LinkedIn or having a look at the blog, and obviously, of course, subscribing to our newsletters. If you're a customer, you're going to get those updates regardless. And then back into the what's next. So some upcoming webinars that we have, enhancing your credit report. So that's available to register for now. I don't believe we've sent out the email for that just yet. If we have, my apologies, we have. That's really going to look at 3 or 4 new features that we have released, including the ability to create custom credit reports, ultimate beneficial owner report that we're releasing shortly, great for KYC and AML compliance, and the ability to auto purchase ASIC extracts, credit scores, credit payment predictors, etc. So every time you go to a credit report, it will auto order that if it isn't already available for you. So if you're ordering it every time, it's a really nice, quick and efficient way to ensure that it's all available for you. The other thing will be the additional industry data that we have incorporated into our payment predictor. So we should see the availability of a payment predictor skyrocket as a result of that. So more often than not, you'll be able to order one. In the past, they were sometimes a little bit limited. A couple of other webinars that we have coming up: Become a DebtorLogic Plus Master, our trade program. We'll take you through that. And we're going to have a look at trusts as well. We get plenty of questions about trusts. They seem to be more and more prevalent, and unfortunately most of our customers don't always understand exactly the difference between a trust and the trustee, as it's been set up by a clever accountant on their behalf. So keep an eye out for those invitations. If not, jump onto the website, creditorwatch.com.au/webinars, and that will give you the ability to sign up. We're going to send out, obviously, all the resources that we've looked at today, including the infographic and the webinar presentation and video recording. So feel free to keep an eye out for that, forward that on to colleagues if they couldn't make it. And as I said, connect with us on LinkedIn or subscribe to our blog if you are interested. Last one today, it was a pretty quick one today. Apologies if I've sped through it a little bit too fast. I'm always keen to know if you find our webinars useful. So please be honest. We're always looking for, feedback on our webinars, on our products, etc. So please, if you think we can do a better job, or if you want to see different data or new data, that sort of thing, get in contact with us. Use the question box within the GoToWebinar control panel, or just send us an email or speak to your BDM. We really do want to hear what you have to say. We love to find new ways of presenting information or getting access to information we may never have thought about. So please do provide that. Thanks to those who voted. We'll close that. And that is it for today. A nice and quick one. I thank you again for joining us for our Q4 2018 Small Business Risk Review. We've hosted it a little bit later than we usually would, but we know that plenty of people would have been away in January or just getting back into it. So our next one will be in early April, before everyone jets off for that big chunk of leave between Easter and Anzac Day. So thanks everyone again for joining us. I'm going to sign off now. I'll leave it open if you do have any questions, and we'll speak to you soon.